All right, I think we're live here. My name is Leiataua Dr. John Peterson, and I am coming to you live and direct from Richfield, Minnesota. And this is my YouTube channel. And the program that you're watching right now is called the Alofa movement. Alofa means love in Samoan. And as I mentioned in the program yesterday, the first vlog that's been done for the Alofa movement, I'm from Samoa and was originally born in Apia, Samoa, and came to the United States when I was about 18 months old and have been living here in the United States, mostly in Wisconsin and Minnesota for the last 41 years. So I wanted to say thanks to everyone who checked out the program yesterday, who tuned in. I really appreciate it. Fatai, and which means thank you. And hope that what I shared was somewhat helpful and informational for you. Granted, it was just the first initial program, initial episode, initial vlog, and so just covered some basics regarding the release of the upcoming book and the music that's been out since June. One thing that I got some feedback on, which I thought was really helpful from my daughter, was she said to make eye contact with the camera. And so I'm going to try and keep my eyes on the prize up there at the top of the computer screen and try not to look into the screen while I do this vlog. It's not exactly as easy as it looks. And truth be told, this is not the first take of this vlog. But I appreciate your patience, and hopefully the information that I provide you all with today will be somewhat helpful to those of you that are interested in the topic. One of the things that I got some feedback from a friend, Damon Clare, who I mentioned in the Facebook post last night that went along with the post of the vlog, was to set up the program in a way that there's a format and a formula for each week and for each day. What I'd like to try and do is set up 5 days a week, do 5 vlogs, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, take a break on Saturday and Sunday, but keep these vlogs short and sweet and to the point. I think 10 to 15 minutes is definitely sufficient time to share information, and I don't think it's fair really for me to go much past 15 minutes. I know that people are busy with family and life and friends and work and all sorts of different things. And so I think it makes sense to keep these, like I said, short and sweet and to the point. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. I think we're at about the 3 or 4 minute mark, and so we've got sufficient time here to talk about the subject. So what I titled today's vlog was Starting Your Own LLC, I think is what I gave it for a title. Yesterday I mentioned that I'm transitioning out of education, at least K-12. That's not necessarily true. The LLC that I'm co-owner in, along with my father-in-law, is called TE2, and it stands for the Edge Effect. If you ever want to check out a cool phenomena, go online and Google the Edge Effect, and you'll see that it's a pretty unique concept, pretty cool idea in terms of how it works in the natural world, but also in an organizational capacity and a leadership capacity. TE2 is an education engineering consulting firm. It's an LLC, otherwise known as a limited liability corporation, for those of you that are familiar with the different types of business entities out there. My father-in-law and I, we started the firm back in 2012, I think October of 2012, if I'm not mistaken, was when we initiated the articles of incorporation and submitted them for approval with the Minnesota Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's a firm that we've had for the last 5 or 6 years. Honestly, we haven't done a ton of work with it, but things are kind of starting to build a little bit here in the past few months, and I wanted to provide some examples of different things you can use an LLC for once you've got it up and running. One of the first things that I would encourage people to do is, before you start a business, take a look and do a little research into the different types of business entities that exist and that are available for you. I know that I looked at S Corp, C Corp, I think limited liability partnership. Ultimately, my father-in-law and I, we decided to land on limited liability corporation. I don't remember the exact reasons why we went with an LLC. I think one of them was flexibility. A second was tax implications. And then a third might have been we're still relatively a small organization. It's just the two of us right now. We don't have any employees, and we didn't want to have any shares or stock or anything like that. So that made the most sense for us at the time and still does. Also, I want to mention a disclaimer. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a tax accountant. So don't take anything that I say as legal advice or as accounting advice. You definitely want to check with your own attorney, whoever you might have on retainer, and or your accountant about any information that I share with you today. And I'll try and keep it pretty broad in general so we don't get into the weeds too much on the legal and the tax implications of owning a business. So number one, figure out what type of entity for your business you want to have. In our case, we went with an LLC. I think a second thing that you want to do is you want to take a look at like what the purpose of the business is. So establishing a mission. And when I think of mission, I think of why my business exists, for what purpose does it serve, and then answering that question in an affirmative statement. I think you really have to nail down why first and foremost before you start going to what and how. I know that Apple's been very successful, as Simon Sinek has stated on TED Talks, that in many ways we engage with business and purchase things as consumers based on what businesses tell us. But the most successful businesses tend to tell us why we want a particular product or service before we even consider the how and the what. And so I think it's really important. Why are you starting your business and what is the purpose for the existence of the business? And nailing that down in one or two sentences, I think, is critical. The second piece that you want to think about is establishing a vision statement. So where do you want to go? What do you need to become as a business or an organization to ensure that the mission, the reason why you exist, comes to fruition and actually happens? And so I think of mission as why you exist or why the business exists, vision, what you must become or what the business must become in order to achieve that mission. The third thing that you want to think about in terms of your overarching business plan is you want to have an established set of values. And those values really are the commitments that you make as a business owner, not only to yourself and to your co-owners or fellow employees, but also to your constituents and your consumers, the people that are purchasing your product and or your service. They really are the commitments and the promises that you make that when you engage with my business, this is what you get. And this is what we commit to. These are the values that we have and that we keep with one another. Usually keep it to 3, 4, not more than 5 values. Much more than that gets difficult to keep track of and measure. The fourth thing that I think you want to take a look at is you want to take a look at establishing some goals. I like to set those goals for the business 3 to 5 years out and then walk back each year the goals that you have annually and then split that up on a quarterly basis, at least 3 times during a year. The old saying is that a trend is made up of 3 data points, not 2. And so I think you want to set your targets for your year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 if you decide to go that far out. I think you want to set those targets in such a way where you can measure and check on progress and achievement of milestones at least 3 times a year and ideally 4 times a year on a quarterly basis. So taking a look at your goals is critical and establishing those goals. Where do you want to be in 3, 4, 5 years? And then backward mapping the things that you need to do and the strategies you need to employ to ensure that everything is implemented and that those goals are reached. So to sum up, the second part of starting your own business, you got to have a mission, you got to have a vision, you have to have some values, and you have to establish some goals. And then once you've established those 4 pieces, you can start to take a look at the different strategies you want to align to those four things: mission, vision, values, and goals. That to me really is the overarching theme of a good business plan, and really any strategic plan for that matter. The third thing that you want to take a look at is contacting someone, possibly an attorney, to help you draft your articles of incorporation. There's a lot of boilerplate language out there on the internet, and most attorney offices, firms have boilerplate language. And sure, you end up spending $250, $300, $400, maybe even $500, getting those articles passed through an attorney. But I can guarantee you that if an attorney takes a look at drafting articles of incorporation, you spend that $300, what you're going to end up with will be an appropriate document that is legal and binding, and sets forth all the different conditions that need to be mandatorily put in your articles of incorporation. So that's definitely something you want to take a look at, establishing your articles of incorporation. There's boilerplate language out there, like I said. If you want to add in your own language, you can do that. Fourth thing that you need to do is you need to determine what agency in your state. Here in Minnesota, it's with the Secretary of State. You need to file those articles of incorporation with. That's a critical piece. Another piece that you need to establish is a tax identification number. I think it's called an EID, if I'm not mistaken. And that allows you to operate as a business. And that's something you have to research and do with the federal government. And I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but you definitely need to set up a tax identification number as part of the application process, at least here in Minnesota with the state. So just to kind of review those four pieces that I talked about just in the last 8-9 minutes. First thing you want to do is establish, based on some research, which type of business entity you want to create. Secondly, you want to establish the beginnings of a business plan. And for me, that was establishing my mission, vision, values, and goals, and then aligning strategies to different goals to ensure that the mission and the vision is achieved. The third part is you want to take a look at which agency or which organization in your state you need to get certified with. That's an annual certification in Minnesota. So every year you have to re-up on that application. There's a small fee that you have to pay. I'm trying to think if they waive it after the first year. I can't remember if they do or not in Minnesota. I'd have to go back and look. But you definitely want to, if you're going to incorporate, you have to get in through an agency at the state level, at the federal, at the government level, and that Minnesota Secretary of State. I'm guessing it probably is similar for most other states as well. And then the fourth piece, you want to make sure you have a tax identification number, and that you have a EID, I think is what it's called. I think it's important. A couple other things as we get down to the last couple minutes is you want to take a look at establishing a website. I personally use, trying to think of the name of the company. I think it's GoDaddy, if I'm not mistaken. You can check us out at te2consulting.com to get a sense of how we set up our website. But you definitely want to have a website presence. I know that there's a lot of different businesses out there and opportunities to promote your business that will want to know what your website address is. And so I think that's a critical piece. Another critical piece is establishing, which, who do you plan to serve? Like what is it you plan to do, and what's the target marketing strategy that you're going to have for getting your name out there, and what does your brand look like as a business? Obviously there's many different ways through social media to promote your business, but you want to make sure that you're consistent across all the different social media outlets. So like your image or your symbol or whatever it is you use for your business symbol needs to look consistent across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is you might be using, YouTube in this case. And so that's an important piece, is the branding and the marketing and making sure that everything looks consistent across the board. Some reasons why to start an LLC. I think it's a great learning process. I think you have an opportunity to learn some new things, and I think it's pretty low risk. I don't think it costs you needs to cost you, thousands of dollars to start your own business. I think for as little as $50 to $500, you can start your own business and start potentially making some money for yourself as a self-employed person. I think secondly, it allows you to expand and build upon some skills that you may have already developed and obtained as an employee for an organization. And so when you're an employee for an organization, you work specifically for that organization or that institution or team. I think starting your own LLC gives you an opportunity to build a customer base and a client base that extends beyond those walls, so to speak, of your organization and institution that you work for. There's also some tax implications. There are things that you can do in terms of deductions, and I'm not going to go into detail into that right now. But if you are interested in learning more about how you can make deductions based on your business, you can check out the Hurdler website, HURDLR. I think it's hurdler.com, has a desktop program that provides all sorts of advice on tax deductions and things that you can do to help defray costs as a business. What are some things that we do in TE2? We provide education consulting, and I'm excited to be providing some consulting and staff development services in August here on the 13th at one of the schools in St. Paul, Sejong Academy. So I'm excited about that. Looking forward to working with Executive Director Brad Tipka and his team. The music album that was created just this last spring, the firm that the copyright and the album has been recorded under is TE2. And so for any of you that are interested in doing music and potentially selling your music and distributing your music through CD Baby or any other platform out there that might exist, Bandcamp, having your own business allows you to not only be the songwriter and the creator of the music, but it also allows you to have rights to the publishing, which is incredibly important because publishing is 50% and writing is 50%. And when you own both, you have the potential to gain the revenue from 100% of both the publishing and the writing. In my case, if you're interested in writing a book, which I have been, and the book is coming out on August 16th. I think it's available on Amazon and the Lexington Books website for pre-order right now, if you're interested in that, uncovering Indigenous models of leadership. But with that being said, if you decide that you want to write a book, you can run your book contract through your business, which I think is pretty cool. So we're at about the 18-minute mark. I think that's about as much as I want to spend for time talking about starting your own LLC, starting your own business today. I strongly encourage you, if it's something you've been thinking about, that you do some research and give it a shot. I mean, what can it hurt? It's good to have multiple irons in the fire. And if you're in a situation where you've been in your employment for a long time and you're looking for something new and looking for an opportunity to learn, it's a great way to get your foot in the door and to start thinking about providing services and goods for yourself, and for the purposes of your own business. I think it's a positive thing. So anyway, I hope that this has been somewhat helpful for those of you out there. And if any of you have been watching and you already own your own business, hopefully it wasn't too duplicative, too much duplication. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. And if you have any questions or have any concerns or you have any feedback or you want to add anything, please feel free to comment on the channel, on the YouTube page. And if you liked what you saw, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down and give some feedback, and I'll integrate that feedback into the next vlog. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Leiataua, Dr. John Peterson, and you are watching the Alofa movement.